please subscribe and give thumbs up. Enjoy. Final Fantasy XV, Episode Arden. 2000 years ago, Arden was the firstborn son of his family. He had the power to heal others by transferring their ailment into his own body, believing it a blessing from the Astrals, the gods of Oz. The Star Scourge he had absorbed as a healer had rendered Arden immortal, but led to him being rejected as tainted by his own family as well as the gods. His ascension to the throne of Lucis denied, he was chained up in Angelgard while virtually all traces of him were erased from history. In ME 734 Arden arrives in Insomnia under the guise of Mars Sapientia, an Insomnian border patrol officer whom he presumably demonified to take on his appearance. As Arden arrives in the metropolis, he thinks back on what set him on this quest. After 2000 years of captivity, in ME 721, Arden was freed by versatile Besithia of Niflheim. As he was escorted out of his prison he was attacked by the Lucian Royal Guard, and amid defending himself discovered that he could demonify others while experiencing their memories. 7 months later Arden came to at the Imperial lab Versatile had brought him to, having lost all concept of passage of time. Versatile informed him of everything that had transpired, including the results of the various tests he had performed on Arden. Arden had no interest in aiding Niflheim in its war against Lucis, but learned about the extent of the Empire's influence in Oz along with its research on demons, monstrous life forms. The Star Scourge eventually transforms the afflicted. Versatile showed Arden the frozen body of the treacherous god of fire, Ifrit, deep in slumber at the lab after Niflheim had salvaged him from the rock of Ravitag. Arden was horrified when Besithia asked him to demonify the deity, alluring him with Ifrit's memories. The lab was attacked by the Royal Guard, whom Arden destroyed when his hallucinations made him see its members as Somnus Lucis Kellam, his brother who had demonized him and taken the throne in his stead. Arden declaring war on the Lucis bloodline. When the enraged Ifrit awakened, Arden subdued and demonified the deity who was stunned to see a member of the Kellam line present. Glimpsing the Infernian's memories, Arden saw how he was meant to be the king before experiencing an intrusive flashback to Eromyrus for its last moments, the first oracle and Arden's beloved. The heir of Arden's memories revealed she had told Somnus that the gods had chosen Arden as king, blaming herself for her unintentional role in Somnus's usurpation, and begged Arden to punish her. While Arden could not bring himself to harm her, he ended up being forced to watch her die by his memory of Somnus. 1. Consumed by hatred for his brother, Arden submitted himself to the Star Scourge and decided to craft a path of darkness to satiate his revenge, not caring if it defied the gods. Now going by Arden as Unia and an imperial citizen, Arden allowed the Star Scourge to spread and the imperial lands were ravaged by a vanishing disease, Arden using the epidemic to absorb the memories of the infected to learn as much of Lucis as he could. However, doing so warped him into a shadow of his original self, no longer able to separate the memories of those he demonified from his own. 1. Arden arrives in Insomnia, the crown city of Lucis, at ME 734 during the Founder King's Day festivities. Posing as a mere border patrol guard named Mars Sapientia, whom he presumably demonified, Arden infiltrates the city and summons Ifrit to cause carnage before disabling the wall amplifiers. The wall is a magical barrier upheld by the currently reigning monarch to protect the crown city from imperial aggression. Arden confronting Regis. Arden defies Besithia's withdrawal orders to go after King Regis, intent on forcing him to summon the old wall to settle the score with Somnus. After Arden nearly kills Regis, the King's Ring of the Lucii summons Somnus's Lucii form. As the magical ring given by the gods, the past king's souls are collected inside the ring rather than passing on. While trading blows, Somnus gradually admits his regret for what he did to Arden and confesses that he was jealous for being outshined. After losing to his brother, Somnus tries to explain himself. But Arden is outraged at his brother's audacity in asking to be understood after taking everything from him. Somnus wishes Arden will find peace as his spirit disappears. The still furious Arden is about to kill the unconscious Regis when the astral Bahamut intervenes and pulls Arden into another dimension where he reveals the astral's new purpose for him, to cover the world in darkness and be killed by the true king as a sacrificial lamb, allowing him to find peace in death while also satisfying his revenge. Arden can either reluctantly submit, or defy his fate. If he submits, Arden demands to know if Hera and Somnus knew of his fate. He receives no response and screams in anguish over the betrayal. If he rejects that fate, he is tortured into accepting it by Bahamut and Hera. Once back on the mortal plane, Arden finds himself in Angelgard. He laments that nothing matters anymore and accepts the role he is to play in plunging the world into darkness, his plan to kill the true king once he comes. He envisions himself murdering the cooperating Hera and Somnus. Insomnia's waking nightmare. In a time unknown, only a prophecy keeps hope alive in people's hearts. When darkness veils the world, the King of Light shall come. Now, 4 brave warriors begin their journey, prepared to fight. What awaits the 4, however, they do not know. Beginning of Final Fantasy XV. A demonic figure in the ruins of a city. In the city of Insomnia, a young king and his comrades are struggling to fell a mysterious being which has brought Ru into the city, who overwhelms the group with its fiery attacks. After shielding themselves from its barrage of flames, the group readies their next attack and charge forward. In the present, Noctis Lucis Kellam is given the blessing of his father King Regis to his safe trip to Altissia. As they leave, Regis tells Noctis's retinue, Gladiolus Amicitia, Ignis Scientia, and Prompto Argentum, to always stay beside his son on his journey. Regis reminds Noctis to be well-mannered to his fiancée Lunafria Nox Florit. As a final send-off, Regis tells Noctis that once he leaves, he cannot return, and that the line of Lucis flows through his blood. Though Noctis playfully dismisses this, Regis tells his son to walk tall. Chapter 1, Departure. Prince Noctis Lucis Kellam sets forth from his homeland with his 3-man retinue in tow. His destination, Altissia, capital of Accordo, where he will formalize the union of states through his marriage to Lady Lunafria of the imperial province of Tenebrae. The group is on its way to Altissia for Noctis to marry his estranged childhood friend Lady Lunafria in a political union. Noctis's kingdom of Lucis, to which he is the heir apparent, has been at war with the Empire of Niflheim for a long time. His marriage to Lunafria is one of the terms of the peace treaty that is soon to be signed. The party takes the car to Hammerhead and meets Cid. King Regis's car they are using, the Regalia, breaks down in the middle of the Light region. After failed attempts in calling for help, they push the car to the nearest service station, Hammerhead. They meet mechanic Cindy Oram and her grandfather Sidsofia, who is acquainted with Noctis's father and calls him Reggie. After the car is repaired, the group heads toward Golden Key, from where they plan to take a ferry to Altissia. Midway, they stop along with Rest Area, where Noctis finds Umbra, one of Lunafria's dogs, carrying a notebook with sil blossoms, the blue flowers native to Lunafria's homeland of Tenebrae. Noctis writes a message back to Lunafria, and Umbra returns to her with it. Even if Lunafria and Noctis have not seen each other in person since childhood, they have kept in secret correspondence over the years, and both are eager to be reunited. In Golden Key they meet a suspicious stranger who informs them that the boats haven't arrived yet. He alludes to the impending attacks in Lucis before departing. A reporter named Dino Garans reveals the next boats won't arrive until the next day, and the group stays the night at the hotel. The next morning Noctis is shocked to learn that Niflheim has attacked Insomnia, and King Regis, Prince Noctis and Lady Lunafria have all been announced to have perished. Noctis decides to return to the city. Noctis talks to Cora's imperial airships soar overhead. The border has been barred off by the imperial military. On a hill overlooking Insomnia, Noctis calls Marshal Corleones of the Crown's Guard, a loyal follower to the king, who confirms that Regis died in the invasion. Kor tells Noctis to meet him at Hammerhead. Elsewhere, Lunafre and Oxfloret meets up with Prina and Umbra, and expresses relief upon seeing the notebook on the latter, confirming Noctis has survived. She meets up with Gentiana, and somberly shows the ring of the Lucii to her, with Gentiana silently telling her to safeguard it. Chapter 2, No Turning Back. In a single night, the promise of peace has been broken, the Crown City along with it. Putting their home behind them, the four friends set forth to find answers in Hammerhead. When the group returns to Hammerhead, they learn that the Niflheim's peace talks with the Crown City were merely a ruse to acquire the city's crystal and the Ring of the Lucii, a royal heirloom only wielded by the king. Cid knew that Regis would give his life for the cause and leaves them a message from Kor, telling them to meet him in the Tomb of the Wise in Kikatrich ruins. Noctis inherits a weapon of his forebears. They seek Kor out at the tomb, who tells Noctis that as king, he must inherit the souls of past kings that inhabit one of many royal tombs of Oz to gain the power he needs to reclaim the throne. The kings are to use their special power to protect the crystal, a magical stone that emits the power of light. In ancient times the crystal is said to have been given to the king's protection along with the Ring of the Lucii, whose wielder gains the power of past Lucian kings. Using the ring drains the wielder's own life force, and Regis's fate had been to age prematurely as he had used the ring to uphold the wall around Insomnia. Noctis is upset his father had lied to him about the true reason he had been sent away from Insomnia, and angers over the burden he must inherit. Kor tells him that Regis wanted Noctis to remember him not as a king, but as a father, and that he believed in his son to protect his people. After Noctis is granted the power of a royal arms at the tomb, Kor leads the group to the next nearest tomb, and tells Noctis there are 13 souls scattered across Oz, though only a few are known. The royal arms are weapons of Noctis's forebears that only he can wield. Due to his birthright as the crystal's protector, Noctis can summon weapons to his hand from thin air, and those accompanying him can partake in his magic as well. To wield the full powers of his forebears, Noctis would need the Ring of the Lucii, which is now being held by Lunafre, to whom the king had entrusted it before his death. Kor at the Niflheim base. Heading for Kikatrich Trench, Kor directs the team to the entrance, and gives them a key to unlock their way through. Kor leaves to see what the Niflheim forces are doing nearby. After acquiring another royal arm, Kor informs Noctis that the Empire is blocking all travel to the Dusky region. Rendezvousing with the group, Kor helps them take out the army within the Nordiscan blockade, and defeat Loki Tumult of the Niflheim military. Afterwards, Kor departs, confident that the future king can reclaim his throne. Noctis is doubtful of his duty, but is relieved and reassured of the friends that travel with him, and they continue their journey. Chapter 3, The Open World. The Empire is a powerful foe, and Noctis has far to travel before he can hope to reclaim the crystal. He sets out across new lands. Iris Amasicia. The group reaches the Dusky region and heads towards Lestalum to meet Gladiolus's younger sister Iris Amasicia. Along their way they have a chance to visit the Disk of Corthus, an ancient crater where a meteorite is said to have fallen eons ago. Legends tell of the astral god Titan still holding up the meteorite on his back. Astrals, also known as the Six, are legendary beings the people of Oz view as gods, but no one has seen one for a long time. When the group tries to visit the crater, they find the area blockaded by Niflheim. The group seeks Iris out at Lestalum. She had been in Insomnia when Niflheim attacked, but escaped with help from the Amasicia family butler, Jared Hester, and has taken refuge in Lestalum with him and his grandson, Talcott. Iris tells the group that Lunafre made it out of Insomnia safely, and had visited them recently. Noctis experiences a headache-inducing vision of the Disk of Corthus, and decides to take a rest. The next day Iris takes Noctis to see the local sights, But the mysterious headaches continue. Arden in Lestorlam. Talcott tells Noctis of the legend of an ancient sword lying behind a waterfall. Suspecting it to be a lost tomb, the group investigates and Noctis acquires another royal arm. Returning to Lestorlam, the group decides to investigate the Disc of Korthus. On the Lestorlam Outlook they encounter the stranger they'd run into in Golden Key, who introduces himself as Arden. Arden informs them through poetry that the Astral Titan is calling to Noctis, and until he heeds the call he suffers severe headaches as a result. He claims to be able to take them to the disc. The four decide to take Arden's word, but be cautious of the offer. Chapter 4, Living Legend. As the land is rocked by tremors, Noctis is racked with headaches. The self-styled man of no consequence advises the would-be king to go and heed the Archean's call. Though loath to believe a suspicious stranger, the four friends nevertheless find themselves with no recourse but to follow Arden to the Disc of Korthus, where Titan is said to slumber. Titan the Archean is an astral said to have caught the meteorite that fell to Oz and to still be holding up its active remains at the center of the impact site. This tale has become a legend, and the tremors that sometimes emanate from the Disc of Korthus are said to be the work of Titan himself. The shards of the ancient meteorite still glow and parts near Lestorlam are used by its energy plant for producing electricity. Legends say that the Astrals forge covenants with the kings of Lucis. Arden opens the Imperial gates to let Noctis's party into the Disc of Korthus, but will not accompany them. Noctis comes face to face with the Archean Titan that rises from underneath the glowing meteorite. Noctis cannot understand what Titan wants until he has a vision of Lady Lunafria communing with the Astral, realizing that she wants to rouse the Six to help Noctis's cause. Titan's awakening sends tremors in the region and Noctis and his bodyguard Gladiolus are separated from the rest of the party as they fall into the pit under the meteorite. Titan forges a covenant with Noctis. Noctis and Gladiolus make their way to Titan through the burning rock. Gladiolus protects Noctis and grows frustrated, asking the latter to reaffirm his conviction to be the king of Lucis. Niflheim arrives to the site and attacks Titan, and Noctis and his party are caught in the crossfire. Titan engages Noctis, who must bury the giant's attacks until his friends arrive to blast Titan's arm off with blizzard spells. Forging a covenant with Noctis, Titan disappears from the disc. As the crater crumbles, Arden appears and reveals himself to be the Chancellor of Niflheim before offering them safe passage on his airship. Though unsure why an enemy official is helping him, Noctis accepts the offer. During the chaos the party loses their car. News spread that the tremors at the Disc of Korthus have died down, but that Titan has disappeared. Many worry for what the awakening of the Astrals means for the world. Chapter 5, Dark Clouds. As Korthus crumbles, the Imperial Chancellor swoops in to usher the four friends to safety, but their reprieve is only temporary, as Dusky's skies tell of trouble on the horizon. With the regalia missing and the roads closed, they find themselves stranded. The Empire closes off the Dusky region and roadblocks are erected to all major roads. Regalia has gone missing. Cindy is looking for it, though the party assumes it was taken by Niflheim. Noctis receives a message from Lunafria via Umbra, in which she lends her support for Noctis's mission. She is seeking to rouse the Six to help him, and Noctis decides to follow with the plan, emboldened by the idea that the gods themselves are on his side. Noctis meeting Gentiano as a child. Dusky is trapped in a perpetual storm as Ramu is calling for Noctis to forge a covenant with him. Noctis reminisces of the time he spent with Lunafria when he was 8 years old and learned about the crystal and his mission from her, although he didn't understand what was asked of him then. Lunafria had told him that the crystal's calling is to crown the King of Light who will save the world, and Noctis had promised to do it. Gentiana's voice guides him through Ramu's trials, the messenger of the gods whose job is to impart the deity's message to mankind. Gentiana is usually with Lunafria, but her following of Noctis is made apparent when a ghostly image of her begins to appear in the background of photos taken by Prompto. After Noctis passes Ramu's trial, the storm clears and he gains the means to summon the Astral. They receive word from Cindy that the regalia has been taken to Arachiol stronghold, a nearby Imperial base. The party decides to infiltrate the base to retrieve the regalia, as the Empire has been unable to move it due to the storm. The party is confronted by Rivas. They storm the base under the cover of night and find the regalia, demolishing the troops stationed at the base by summoning Ramu. As they try to leave with the regalia, they are accosted by Rivas Nox Florit, Lunafria's elder brother. Rivas was the former Prince of Tenebrae before it was annexed by the Empire, but now works as the High Commander of the Imperial Army. Thus, Noctis considers him the enemy. Rivas claims Noctis is making a pact with the Astrals without understanding the true meaning of his actions. As Rivas overpowers Gladiolus and threatens Noctis, Ardan intervenes and lets the party leave the base with the regalia. As the party drives to Lestalum now that the roadblocks have been lifted, they ponder why Lunafria's brother is working with the Empire, and what Ardan's gambit for helping them out could be. Noctis loathing both. Rivas has an artificial arm, having lost a limb during the battle in Insomnia, but regardless appears to wield superhuman strength. In Lestalum they discover that Jared has been killed by Knifelime soldiers during their search for Noctis. Imperial airships patrol the skies of Lestalum and Imperial flags have been posted around the city. Iris is determined to flee the town to the rural port of Kem. Even if the ships from Golden Key don't run due to an Imperial blockade, Kem has a secret harbor they could use. Noctis is determined to continue on his journey, and overnight dreams of chasing Lunafria's white dog Prina through various terrors. Chapter 6, A Way Forward. Beneath the Cape Kem light in the south of Clane lies an underground harbor. It has long served the Lucian royalty, and even now, a vessel once owned by King Regis lies at anchor there. Following in his father's footsteps, Noctis heads for the ship. Aranea attacks Noctis. Together with Iris, the party heads for Kem. Along the way they spot another active Imperial base, and decide to destroy its Magitech generator to avenge Jared. Leaving Iris behind at Old Lestalum, the party makes its way to the base, where they shadow the base commander responsible for killing Jared, Caligo Uldor. They did take him captive, but he escapes while Noctis and his friends are laying waste to the garrison. Noctis is attacked by OLV 26 Imperial Commodore Aranea Highwind. Upon defeat she leaves, claiming it is time to clock out for she doesn't work overtime without pay. The next morning news of the raid have spread to the local area and Noctis and his friends continue to Kem. Iris decides to stay at an old house at Kem with Talcott. An interactable memorial is erected for Jared. Cindy and Sid have come over to repair King Regis's boat that Noctis helps to use at the secret harbor to escape the continent. Chapter 7, Party of 3. To repair King Regis's old ship, Noctis and company require that rarest of ores, Mithril. With only a vague clue to guide them, they head for Empire-held ruins situated in the north of Clane. At Kem, Sid reports she needs Mithril for the repairs. Following a tip conveyed via Talcott from the late Jared, the party heads to Vesperpool, a lake north of Clane. Gladiolus opts out without giving a reason, and so Noctis, Ignis and Prompto go without him. Noctis fells a monster with Aranea's help while looking for Mithril. They find the blockades gone and wonder if they have been deliberately let through. They run into Ardan, who explains that while he may be Chancellor, he isn't in charge of the army. Tipping the party off to the Mithril's location in nearby Staylif Grove underground ruins, Ardan departs. This type of ruins open only at night. One of the guards at the entrance function as a shop. The party is accompanied by Aranea Highwind, who is increasingly skeptical of the Empire's goals, as the Imperials are hunting for demons in the area. Demons are magical creatures of the dark that spawn during the darkest hours of the day. Insomnia had always been safe from them due to the light of the crystal and the wall, but the demons are growing fiercer and more numerous. Throughout the ruins, Aranea explains the Empire is hunting for demons to make Magitech troops. She is considering leaving the army and returning to being a mercenary. They recover the mithril from the depths of the ruins and hitch a ride back to Lestalem on an Imperial airship with Aranea's aid. She wishes Noctis well, advising him to choose his own path in life. Final Fantasy XV, Episode Gladiolus. Having been overpowered by Rivas at Arakiol's stronghold, Gladiolus worries that he is not strong enough to protect Noctis. While the rest of the party searches for mithril to repair the boat, Gladiolus leaves to train and prove that he is worthy of protecting the chosen king. Gladiolus and Cor at the ruins. 30 years ago ancient ruins were discovered in Lucis. In their deepest recesses awaits the Blade Master, Gilgamesh, who once held Gladiolus's role as shield of the Founder King, and his soul has remained to challenge those who seek him for 2,000 years. Many attempts had been made to explore the ruins, but every expedition ended in failure and the deaths of everyone involved except for one man, Corleones, earning him his title of Immortal. Gladiolus meets with Cor and tells him that he wishes to undertake the trial of Gilgamesh. Cor supports Gladiolus through the Tempering Grounds ruins, but the former must take on the trials alone. Gladiolus wins against Gilgamesh, who recognizes Gladiolus as being worthy of being the shield of the true king, seeing Gladiolus's only fear is that he should be too weak to protect Noctis. Gilgamesh reveals he had lost his arm to Cor, and yields Cor's katana, the Genji blade, to Gladiolus. Gladiolus and Cor leave the ruins with Gladiolus indirectly passing on the praise Gilgamesh had said about Cor. Gladiolus returns to the others and shows off his battle spoils at the campsite. Chapter 8, Seaworthy. With the help of Imperial Commodore Aranea Highwind, the makeshift miners hit pay dirt, only to learn raw ore won't suffice. Cindy refers them to Holly, an engineer in Lestalem who knows how to treat mithril. Iris and Talcott wave Noctis's party goodbye. Cindy's friend, Holly, can treat the mithril for their use, but they find the Lestalem power plant swarming with demons. Noctis helps expel them, rendezvousing with Gladiolus in the process. Though he doesn't explain where he has been, he has a fresh scar on his face. They decide to deliver the now usable mithril to Cid so they can depart for Altissia. At Chem, Noctis gets a message from Lunafria via Umbra. Cid reminds Noctis that his companions are more than just bodyguards, and that Noctis should always depend upon them as they depend upon him. Cor apologizes for having been unable to protect Regis, but Noctis doesn't blame him. As they set sail, Talcott calls after him, asking him to come back soon as Lucis needs a king. Chapter 9, Callings. Noctis receives a warm send-off as he sets sail for Altissia in high spirits. The prince goes forth ostensibly to seek the blessings of the Hydraean, which will enable him to challenge the Empire's might, but his true heart's desire is to find Lunafria, his betrothed. Noctis and his friends cross the Sigillan Ocean with the royal vessel to Altissia. During the trip they discuss Rivas being the high commander of the Imperial army, and him holding King Regis's sword, although he cannot brandish it as he is not of the Lucian line. Noctis feels ambivalent, but believes he'll be able to reclaim the sword from Rivas. Noctis hopes to make a covenant with Leviathan, the Hydraean. Lunafria is being sheltered by the Altissian government, which has some autonomy, but the Empire is demanding for them to release her to them. Noctis discusses the matter with Altissia's first secretary, Camellia Claustra, and gains her alliance. While in Altissia the group has a chance to see Lunafria's wedding dress, which she was to wear to wed Noctis. Lunafria uses her powers as the oracle to heal Amman. Lunafria is an oracle charged with maintaining the stability of Oz by cleansing the world and communing with its gods. Oracles inherit their abilities through their bloodline, and use them to halt the Star Scourge, A plague on the world that lengthens nights. Legend has it the astral Bahamut descended from the stars and picked the first oracle from the land of Tenebrae. He bestowed the oracle's powers upon her and gave her his trident. As the youngest oracle in history, Lunafria is revered and people travel long distances to be seen by her, as she has the power to heal the plagues of darkness. Lunafria makes her first public appearance after the invasion of insomnia by addressing the masses. Noctis is among the audience when she reveals she is going to awaken the sea goddess, and though the powers of the dark are encroaching upon the world, she is sworn to fight their influence. As Gladiolus, Ignis and Prompto are helping evacuate the citizens, Lunafria begins to communicate with Leviathan to have her give her power to the rightful king, Noctis. Leviathan refuses, and Imperials under Rivas's command arrive to destroy Leviathan. Lunafria passes on the ring as her spirit departs. Leviathan destroys the Imperials while Arden makes his way to Lunafria and stabs her while Noctis is powerless to help her. With her last strength, Lunafria invokes the souls of past kings to empower Noctis so he can fight Leviathan, as only by defeating her will she accept the covenant. Noctis defeats her with the help of Titan and passes out. A dying Lunafria crawls over to him and heals him. Noctis meets her in a dream vision where she passes the ring of the Lucii to him before her spirit departs from the world. Noctis awakens several days later to discover Lunafria has died and that Ignis was wounded during the evacuation and lost his eyesight. Final Fantasy XV, Episode Ignis. Altissia in Chaos. As the city of Altissia is being devastated by the rampaging Leviathan, Ignis worries for the safety of Prince Noctis. Gladiolus, Ignis and Prompto are on evacuation duty, but Ignis becomes separated from the others. He makes his way toward the altar of the Tide Mother being pursued by Brigadier General Caligo Uldor, and defeats his Magitech armor. He teams up with Rivas who has given up his allegiance to the Empire, but only teams up with Ignis as a means to get to Lunafria, emphasizing this doesn't mean he supports Noctis's bid for the throne of the true king. Once they get to the altar, Ignis finds Lunafria's dog Prina dying. Prina is a messenger of the gods who delivers a vision of Noctis fulfilling the prophecy of the true king to Ignis, who learns Noctis must die to save the world. Ignis and Rivas find Noctis unconscious and Lunafria dying. Rivas flies into a rage, blaming Noctis for his sister's death, but Ignis quells him. Rivas mourns how Lunafria never got to live a normal life, and how even in death her spirit will not rest until the prophecy is fulfilled. Arden disguised as Gladiolus arrives, but Rivas sees through the ruse and protects Noctis and Ignis from him. The ring of the Lucii falls from Noctis's unconscious grasp, and Ignis takes it. Ignis loses his vision. After Arden blasts Rivas away with his magic, he asks Ignis to either join him or be killed. If Ignis refuses to join Arden, he puts on the ring of the Lucii and unexpectedly and temporarily gains the power of kings at the cost of his vision. Ignis defeats Arden, gains Rivas's respect, and his eyesight is permanently damaged. When Noctis awakes days after his battle with Leviathan, he finds Ignis watching over him. Knowing Noctis's fate from the vision he had seen, Ignis asks Noctis to stop the journey. Noctis refuses, saying giving up would make all the sacrifices others had made for him meaningless. Ignis accepts Noctis's answer, and promises to always support him. Chapter 10, The Heart of a King. Across the water and onto the rails, the royal retinue makes for Grayley, the imperial capital. Their objective, reclaiming the crystal, that they might reclaim their homeland. However, the ring's weight proves too much for Noctis to bear. Gladiolus and Noctis argue in the train. Several weeks later, Noctis's group travels on a train towards Grayley, the capital of Niflheim where the crystal has been taken. Lunafria's death has hit Noctis hard, and he refuses to wield the ring of the Lucii now in his possession. This angers Gladiolus, who deems Noctis's inability to deal with the grief as a sign he is not ready for the task they have at hand. He is also concerned about Ignis's condition. Although his wounds have healed, his eyesight hasn't returned. The train makes a stop at an abandoned mining town where Kor claims one of the royal tombs lies. The group finds the weapon at the depths of Fodina Sestino, and afterward Ignis speaks up to heal the rift that has formed between Noctis and Gladiolus. Noctis's resolve is restored, and he decides to continue onward and stop at Tenebrae along the way. Ignis is determined to continue with them despite his disability. After vowing to back Ignis all the way, the retinue boards the train, unaware a chuckling Arden is following them. Chapter 11, In the Dark. Ignis's resolve forces a reconciliation between Noctis and Gladiolus and restores harmony to the group. With renewed vigor, the four friends reboard the train and head for Tenebrae, home of the late Lady Lunafria. Noctis talks with Ignis, who theorizes about the longer nights. For some time now days have been getting shorter and the nights longer, which also means more demons. After Lunafria's death the situation has worsened, and daylight is disappearing from the world. They believe the crystal has the power to fight the darkness as it had always protected Insomnia from demons. Arden about to shoot Prompto, but Noctis sees them as reversed. The train is attacked by the Imperial army in Asolo. Arden seemingly taunts Noctis, who is unable to attack him as he disappears every time he is close to striking. Noctis and Prompto defend the train from the Imperial forces while Gladiolus and Ignis get the train running again. As Noctis and Prompto board the train after fending off an Imperial aerial assault, Noctis spots Arden holding Prompto at gunpoint. Noctis charges in and shoves Arden, but to his horror sees Prompto falling off the train instead. Arden had used his supernatural powers to switch appearances with Prompto. Gloating over his deception, Arden knocks Noctis out and departs. Chapter 12, End of Days. Arden uses a stitch in time to switch appearances with Prompto, and tricks Noct into hurting his closest friend. Nevertheless, a king pushes ever onward, accepting the consequences, and never looking back. They are unable to stop the train to look for Prompto, and assume he has been captured by the Imperials. They stop at Tenebrae and find the Fenestala Manor aflame as revenge by the Empire. Rivers is reported to have been executed for high treason, being blamed for the Leviathan incident, and thus the bloodline of the oracles has ended. Without Lunafria holding back the darkness, sunlight has almost vanished from the world and demons are now spawning even during the daylight hours. As they speculate that the crystal has the power to repel the demons, Noctis is even more desperate to seek it out. Aranea has quit the army and is helping the victims of the Empire's attacks with Biggs and Wedge, her subordinates. As the passage to Imperial territory is dangerous, Noctis, Gladiolus and Ignis decide to head to Greylee without the other passengers with Biggs and Wedge operating the train. While in Tenebrae, Noctis learns Rivers had always been on Lunafria's side even though he had been affiliated with the Empire. Rivers had been skeptical of Noctis, doubting his status as the true king. Rivers had demanded Lunafria to stop helping Noctis at the cost of her own health, as facilitating the covenants with Noctis was slowly killing her. However, Lunafria had been determined to continue even if she had doubted her strength and asked for Rivers to pass on the ring of the Lucii to Noctis. Rivers had told her to be strong and that passing on the ring was her duty. Noctis learns Lunafria had been looking forward to their marriage. Noctis forges a covenant with Shiva. They continue to pass the Grover's Rift covered in the blizzard. As demons spawn to halt the train at Shiva's corpse, Noctis meets Arden again. Noctis demands to know what Arden's gambit is, but the latter is frozen by Gentiana who reveals her true identity as the astral goddess Shiva. Noctis forges a covenant with her, and learns Arden is immortal and all their attacks on him are ineffective. Noctis ponders what Arden's true nature is, as he appears to draw power from the darkness itself. Shiva bequeaths the trident of the oracle to Noctis, one of the royal arms, and tells him about the War of the Astrals and Ifrit and the ancient civilization of Solim's downfall. She conveys the message of Lunafria's love to Noctis, who vows they will be together one day. The party continues onward to Greylee with the knowledge that Prompto is held captive there along with the crystal. Final Fantasy XV, Episode Prompto. Several days after falling off the train, Prompto traverses the snowfields of the Niflheim Outlands alone. He succumbs to the cold and is found by Magitech troopers, who bring him to a local Magitech research facility. He meets Arden, who gives Prompto back his handgun and urges him to meet with his father, telling him he was born here. Prompto initially refuses to believe it, and sets out to escape the facility. He finds various firearms around the complex and uses them to destroy the MTs swarming around the place. By reading the research notes and listening to audio logs from Versatile Bisithia, the leading Imperial Magitech researcher, he learns how the Empire produces MTs from demonified human clones. As he finds dormant clones in their tubes, he finds they look like him, and have the same barcode tattooed on their wrists Prompto himself has. Prompto kills Versatile. Prompto confronts Versatile at the facility, who is turning into a demon. Arden mockingly describes it as a heartfelt father-son reunion, as Versatile uses his own genetic material to create the clones to have enough infants for an army. Versatile is afflicted by the Star Scourge and believes demons are the superior life form that he can enhance even further with his magitechnology. He is seeking to fuse his own soul to a Magitech creature he has created, which he refers to as his greatest weapon. As Versatile tries to inflict Prompto with the Star Scourge, Prompto shoots him at point-blank range, killing him. Aranea has infiltrated the Magitech production facility to find the truth behind Versatile's Magitech project. She gives Prompto a snowmobile to escape the facility. Prompto rides until he is clear of Imperial pursuit and camps out by a thawed lake. Aranea joins him later and urges him to return to his friends, but Prompto hesitates because of what he has just learned. He is a clone to be made into a Magitech trooper before being kidnapped by Lucis and raised in the Crown City. He doesn't think Noctis and the others would accept him. Aranea insists his origins don't matter, and that Prompto must decide what he wants out of life for himself, before leaving. Prompto remembers Lunafria's messenger dog from when he was a child. The next day Prompto explores the wilderness alone and finds MTs lying in the snow and is briefly trapped in illusions of himself as an mount being hunted by Noctis. He remembers being young and living in Lucis with a secret, hiding the weird tattoo on him, never having friends. He had befriended Lady Lunafria through her messenger dog, Prina. She had sent him a letter asking him to be friends with Noctis and support him. He realizes what Aranea said about deciding his own path in life was true and meets up with her again to help her take down Versatile's newest monsters. Together they infiltrate another Magitech facility and destroy Barbarus, Versatile's experiment to fuse Magitech with a mammal, and Immortalis, a colossal Magitech monster that now houses Versatile's soul. Afterward Prompto heads to Greylee to meet up with Noctis and the others to tell them the truth about himself. However, Prompto is captured and imprisoned in Xegnautus Keep so Arden can lure and torment Noctis. Chapter 13, Redemption. Having stolen Noctis's country, crystal, and cherished companions, Arden waits implacably in Greylee. The regalia is destroyed. Noctis, Ignis and Gladiolus enter Greylee by train, but fall under attack and have to abandon the train with the belief that Biggs and Wedge can look after themselves. Noctis drives the regalia into the city, but the car is destroyed and he becomes separated from his friends. He continues alone, but finds he cannot summon his weapons to his side as his powers have been sealed. With Arden's taunting voice in his ears, Noctis decides to wield the Ring of the Lucii and blasts the demons and Magitech troops that spawn around him with magic. The Imperial City is devoid of human life and swarming with demons. The Magitech troops at the lab the crystal is said to be kept in have gone rogue. Noctis discovers the Empire has been manufacturing demons, that Magitech troops are made out of their experiments with demons and clones at the lab, and that a vanishing disease has ravaged the Empire that as its citizens turn into demons the Empire cannot control. Noctis finds Rivas dead and recovers his father's sword. Letters Rivas had sent to Lunafrio are scattered about his body, and through them Noctis learns Rivas had always supported her despite disagreeing with her conviction to help Noctis become the king. Rivas had helped Lunafrio flee Eleusis, and had promised to safekeep Regis's sword for Noctis should he prove his worth by obtaining Leviathan's blessing. Gladiolus and Ignis. Meanwhile, Gladiolus and Ignis stay together and try to find Noctis and Prompto. Ardan returns them their weapons before directing them to Xegnautus Keep. They find security footage of Rivas confronting Emperor Aldercapt, declaring that Noctis is the true king and the rightful bearer of the Ring of the Lucii. The Emperor had summoned demons to expel Rivas from the throne room, injuring him. The footage shows Ardan disguised as Noctis approaching Rivas, who had tried to bequeath the sword of the father to him. Ardan killed Rivas and scattered his letters about his body for Noctis to find. Gladiolus and Ignis continue to follow Ardan's directions through the keep, and encounter Apharas, a demon that can speak and who thirsts for the crystal. After it disappears, Gladiolus and Ignis find a control panel that unlocks the seal on the crystal. They catch up with Noctis before the latter is killed by a trap. Noctis, Gladiolus and Ignis find Prompto who had been brought to the keep by Ardan. After discovering Prompto was born at a lab to be Maiden Mount, they can use him to open the sealed areas of keep. They find the Emperor's throne room with his robes left on the seat, as he has also vanished and become a demon. After turning off the device that seals his powers, they are attacked by a demonic Rivas who begs them to kill him. After killing Rivas, Noctis and his friends are ambushed by a horde of demons and his friends urge him to go to the crystal alone to use it to banish the demons. Noctis finds the crystal. Noctis leaves his friends behind with a heavy heart and makes it to the crystal. He is absorbed inside it while being taunted by Ardan, who reveals his true name as Ardan Lucis Kellam. Ardan is Noctis's ancestor who was to become the chosen king until he was rejected by the crystal for his affinity with the darkness. Ardan had been a healer similar to the work Lunafria had done until recently, but the demons had corrupted his soul. Unable to die, Ardan will always return and thus has been plotting for the demise of the Kellam family line and the crystal. He explains to Noctis he would take scant satisfaction in killing Noctis as a mortal, and asks him to take the crystal's power and become the true king. The crystal holds inside it the planet's soul. In this otherworldly dimension Noctis meets the astral god Bahamut and is made aware of his destiny as the true king. The true king is born once all of the crystal's power is passed on to the Ring of the Lucii. The true king can banish the darkness from the world at the cost of his own life. Final Fantasy XV, Comrades. As the long night begins, the remaining Glaives, remnants of the royal guard who could wield King Regis's magic, migrate to Lestallum to lend their aid to protecting the world in wait for the coming of the true king. The light of the past kings of Lucis returned to the Glaives when Lunafrio unlocked the power of the royal tombs during Leviathan's revelation, and they can once again wield magic. The Glaives help defend the people and Lestallum as mankind's final stronghold. Bahamut confronts the Glaives. Bahamut tests the Glaives' worthiness. After the Glaives prevail in a battle against him, Bahamut forgives their previous betrayal of the crown during the treaty signing, when many Glaives had turned on Regis for having seemingly abandoned the outlands of Lucis. Gentiano explains Angelgard must be safeguarded for Noctis to eventually awaken from his long sleep inside the crystal. The Glaives return to Lucis to fight demons and wait for the prophesied time. During this time, they also briefly confront Ifrit after Ardan, knowing of the Glaives' revived status, sixth the astral on them. The Glaives force the god to retreat, impressing Ardan. Eventually, each major outpost falls back as the demons grow stronger. The sky turns red and giant demons begin to circle the skies, as the world plunges further into darkness. Nearly a decade later, when Noctis awakens, the Gleives witness his return, but Noctis returns to the abandoned Golden Key alone. Chapter 14, Homecoming. Noctis leaves his prison to find himself on Angelgard. His father's ship is moored at Shur, none the worse for wear. It now carries him back to Golden Key, back to his kingdom. Noctis awakens. Noctis awakens on the remote island of Angelgard, having absorbed the crystal's powers. He meets Umbra, who delivers him a message. His friends are waiting for him at Hammerhead. Noctis takes King Regis's ship back to Golden Key. The world is shrouded in darkness and Golden Key is in ruin and swarming with demons. Noctis is picked up by an adult Talcott, and he discovers he has been gone for 10 years. The sun has set permanently and the world has been overtaken by the forces of the dark. Lestallum still draws power from the ancient meteorite crystal, and is the only place with light and thus where most people left live. Noctis's old friends have become demon hunters, and Ignis has become used to being blind and no longer needs a cane to walk. They had been trained by Kor to one day accompany Noctis upon his return to reclaim his throne and return light to the world. After a final meal at camp, the four friends entered the ruins of Insomnia to where Arden has taken the crystal. They battle through the demons that now inhabit it and find the King's Gleive base camp, where the remaining Gleives have their hope for the future renewed by Noctis's return. Noctis meets Kor, who now leads the Gleives, and speaks to Iris and Cindy over the phone. Arden summons meteorites to set the Crown City ablaze and cloaks the Citadel building with wall magic of his own making, tainted with demonic energy. Noctis and his retinue fight their way to the Citadel, which they find guarded by Cerberus. After dispatching Arden's demonic guard dog, Lunafria's spirit appears to summon the Astrals to break the wall around the Citadel building. At the steps of the Citadel, Arden ushers Ifrit to attack them. Ifrit is one of the six and is known as the Betrayer, for he loathes mankind and 2,000 years ago turned against Solheim, ready to annihilate the world itself. Ifrit was slain in the War of the Astrals that led to Solheim's downfall alongside the newly appeared Star Scourge Plague, but he has been resurrected by Arden with the power of the Scourge. The other Astrals answer to Noctis's call to fight Ifrit, until Shiva freezes him with her kiss, shattering his body. Inside the palace, the party marvels at the paintings of the prophecy of the coming of the chosen king. They meet the corrupted spirits of 3 kings of yore, and battle through their trials on their way to the throne room. The last of the Lucii, Arden's brother Somnus, asks for Noctis to free his brother from the thrall of darkness. Before entering, Noctis asks one of the photos Prompto had taken on their journey to take with him. Noctis fights Arden. Noctis finds Arden sitting on the throne below the crystal with the bodies of his father, his betrothed, Emperor Aldercapt, and a King's Gleive member Nyx Ulrich hanging from the ceiling. Arden incapacitates Noctis's friends, telling him the final battle is a battle between kings. The two duel, both wielding the power of kings, but Noctis emerges victorious. As Arden dies, he tells Noctis to see him on the other side. Noctis sends his friends away in the manner Regis had sent their group away 10 years ago, telling them to walk tall. As demons surround the palace, Noctis sits on the throne and calls upon the past kings. As the spirit of Regis watches on, the past kings of Lucis attack Noctis one by one as he grips onto his father's sword. His soul departs and is taken by the ring of the Lucii. Now wielding the full powers of the light, Noctis's departing spirit finds Arden in the limbo and erases the Star Scourge from his soul with the help of the past Lucian kings, including Regis, as well as Lunafria and the memories of his friends. The ring of the Lucii breaks, and with the prophecy fulfilled, the sun finally rises. At their final campsite, Noctis had struggled expressing himself to his comrades who had always stayed by his side. He had made his peace with the sacrifice he would have to make, and thanked his friends with the words, "What can I say? You guys are the best." Lunafria and Noctis sleep on a throne. Noctis and Lunafria share the throne labeled Noctis Lucis Kellum Xif. She is wearing her wedding dress when Regis's voice pronounces them husband and wife. The two close their eyes as soul crystals glimmer in the air. Chapter 15, End of the Road. Call Umbra and to a world at your leisure. You might even find some new treasures buried right under your nose. Beginning from a point outside the citadel in Insomnia, Noctis can return to the past Lucis by calling Umbra. Cindy can upgrade the Regalia into the Regalia Type F, and Noctis can explore new dungeons and battle new monsters. Alternate endings. Final Fantasy XV, Episode Ignis. If Ignis decides to follow Ardyn after facing him in Altissia in Episode Ignis, the latter takes him to Xenortus Keep, where the Empire has imprisoned the crystal. A mysterious voice guides Ignis to the crystal, telling him how only the true king fulfilling the prophecy can save the world. Ardyn's demonic form. When Ignis finds the crystal, he is apprehended by Ardyn, who reveals he lured Ignis there as bait for Noctis, whom he wants to inherit the crystal's power. Ardyn reveals his true identity as Ardyn Lucis Kellum, who in ancient times was to become the king of Lucis, but considers the title stolen from him by his brother Somnus, the founder king. His soul rendered mortal by the Star Scourge, Ardyn has lived for 2 millennia, awaiting the time he can get his revenge on the crystal that had discarded him. Ignis knows Noctis will die if Ardyn's plan succeeds, and declares that the world means nothing to him if it means losing his friend. Ignis puts on the Ring of the Lucii and gains its power for the price of his own life. He defeats Ardyn, who yet returns, as he is immortal. The dying Ignis is found by Noctis, Gladiolus and Prompto, who had been brought to the keep by Rivus. Noctis grieves how incapable he is to protect those close to him, and asks for the crystal's power to save Ignis. He takes the ring and walks into the crystal, and while he sleeps in its skull for 10 years, the others return to Lucis. Ignis meets with their various friends and they scout the royal tombs while awaiting for Noctis's return. Noctis reigns as king. When Noctis returns, him and his retinue head to Insomnia, where Rivus bequeaths Noctis the Sword of the Father, and joins them in facing Ardyn in the throne room. They appear to have succeeded in killing Ardyn, as light returns to the world. Yet, Noctis doesn't die, continuing to rule Lucis from the citadel where Ignis goes to see him. Whether this means the prophecy of the true king has been fulfilled, or if Ardyn's immortal soul still lingers and the Star Scourge can yet return, is unknown. Final Fantasy XV, Official Works posits that Ignis devised a secret plan to destroy the immortal Ardyn and drive out the darkness, and managed to surpass even the intent of the gods to bring forth another future. 2. Final Fantasy XV, The Dawn of the Future. The game was planned to have a second season of DLC that would lead to an alternate ending to the saga. However, the tetralogy of DLC was cancelled, and the story was released in a novel adaptation instead. After entering the crystal in Xenortus Keep, Noctis sleeps in its heart for 10 years while receiving various memories from the crystal. He learns of Ardyn's plight as the rejected healer from 2000 years ago, of Lunafria's journey to help him and how acting as his go-between with the Astrals was slowly killing her, explaining Rivus's hostility toward him. He learns how Ignis had protected him when he was unconscious following Leviathan's trial, and how Regis had learned of his fate as the true king yet striven to give him a happy childhood. Noctis becomes filled with regret on how he didn't know to appreciate the sacrifices everyone had made for him, and though he doesn't want to die, he wants to honor the way everyone had supported him, especially Lunafria's sacrifice. He is visited by the spirit of his father, who encourages him to always push onward, accept the consequences of his actions, and not look back. Unknown to Noctis, Ardyn has accumulated power too great for the true king to purge with the Ring of the Lucii, and Bahamut has decided to go forth with his original plan of destroying Oz. 10 years after her death, Bahamut revives Lunafria with a new power, to absorb demons, and sends her to destroy Ardan and take on his darkness. Lunafria meets a girl named Sol who begins to help her get back to Lucis from the Imperial lands where she was revived. Sol is skeptical of the gods and inspires Lunafria to doubt her calling as well and to consider what she personally wants out of life, but she feels following her God-given destiny is the only path available for her. She learns that Noctis will die if he follows his calling, and communes with the astrals in her dreams. But Bahamut prevents her from talking to Gentiana. Using her newfound powers is slowly turning her into a demon. Her oracle powers only barely allowing her to withstand it, but she keeps doing it so they can keep moving in a hostile world clad in perpetual darkness and void of people. Lunafria writes her thoughts and experiences in a notebook for Noctis to one day read, though Umbro is unable to reach him for the time being. When Lunafria learns that Sol descends from the Aldacap dynasty, she doesn't care. Sol was once saved by Rania Highwind and was raised by her, and when they learn Rania is trapped in Solimian ruins surrounded by demons, Lunafria decides to aid in a rescue attempt, not because it is her calling, but because she wants to help. Inside the ruins she receives visions from a statue of Eremiras Florit, the first oracle who was once Ardan's betrothed. Ero asks Lunafria to save Ardan, and Lunafria learns her new power is the same Ardan had used 2,000 years ago to heal people of the Scourge by taking it into his own body, but this had led to his downfall and rejection of the gods. They destroy an Imperial Magitech weapon called the Sapphire Weapon that was hidden in the ruins, and Lunafria reverts a demonified Arania. The toll of the battle against the weapon and absorbing Arania's Star Scourge act as a catalyst to turn Lunafria into a demon. She yet retains her sentience, and Sol protects her from being killed by Arania. Lunafria is captured and brought to Lestalum, mankind's final safe haven, where the hunters and King's Glaive ponder what to do with her. Gentiana manages to impart to Lunafria the truth about Bahamut, but is interrupted when he notices what she is doing. The now demonic Lunafria is freed by Solara and Arania, and she is taken to Insomnia by the former so she can speak with Ardan, not to fulfill her new calling, but to defy the gods and save Noctis. Before leaving, she sends Umbra with a final message for Noctis, to meet her at Insomnia's citadel. She plans to trick Bahamut into unleashing Terraflare so the other astrals can block it and thus exhaust him, forcing Bahamut into slumber. Ardan is unconvinced and summons Ifrit when Lunafria tells him of Era's message. Lunafria absorbs the Scourge from Ifrit and makes a covenant with him, but this final effort fully turns her. When Noctis awakens at Angelgard he meets Umbra with a notebook from Lunafria. Noctis learns she is still alive and meets her friend Sol who takes him to Hammerhead. Noctis learns from Sol that Lunafria was revived by Bahamut and sent to Insomnia to kill Ardan. This shocks him, as this was supposed to be his mission, and he is the one with the ring. Rather than wait for his friends at Hammerhead, Noctis heads to the citadel alone to save his beloved despite believing the gods won't help him do this. On his way Noctis encounters the mystic as a spirit of the old wall, now enslaved by Ardan. Noctis defeats the king of Ur and cracks his face plate, realizing the man underneath, the founder king and Ardan's brother, looks a lot like him. Released from the thrall of the dark, the mystic asks Noctis to save Ardan. When Noctis arrives at the throne room, he finds Ardan with a demonic Lunafria who attacks Noctis. Noctis begs for her to recognize him and blames Ardan for her transformation, but he explains she had absorbed the Scourge from Ifrit on her own volition, which fully turned her. Bahamut arrives, saying the king's role has ended as humans' continuing foolish actions mean the world's fate is destruction. Bahamut commands Lunafria to release her power, and it destroys the throne room. Bahamut raises the citadel into the air to take the crystal and the throne out of reach, but Ardan warps up to it, knowing Noctis will follow to save Lunafria. Lunafria floats above the citadel, singing to summon Terraflare to destroy the world. Noctis tries to warp up to the flying building, but an army of smaller Bahamut stops him. His retinue arrives to aid him along with Sol, Aranea, Biggs and Wedge in their airship, telling everyone to get on. A Bahamut attacks the airship and it crash lands on the Citadel Plaza. Sol, Aranea, Biggs and Wedge stay to repair the airship, while Noctis, Gladiolus, Ignis and Prompto continue on. They run into Arden, who explains Lunafria's plan was to take his darkness so Bahamut will use Terraflare, which will be blocked by the other astrals, exhausting Bahamut and sending him to a long rest. Since Bahamut exists both in the physical realm and in the beyond, he can't be killed, similar to Arden's own immortality. Arden asks for the Ring of the Lucii, and Noctis realizes his plan is to enter the beyond with the power of the Kings of Yore and destroy Bahamut there. Noctis gives Arden the Battle of Kings he so desires, defeating him with the Sword of the Father, but to Arden's shock refrains from killing him. Noctis explains he would kill Arden if it saved the world, but now that Bahamut is going to kill everyone, there is no longer any point, and he is done with needless sacrifices. He asks if Arden defeating Bahamut in the beyond would save humanity. Arden thinks it might, but doesn't care about being a savior, he only wants vengeance. Even if Noctis cannot forgive Arden, he views his nemesis a part of the world that he swore to protect, and recalls how the mystic had asked him to save him. Arden admits Noctis is worthy of the title of true king, much to his irritation. Noctis summons the past kings from the Ring of the Lucii and beseeches they permit Arden to use their power to save the world. The mystic assents. On the roof of the Citadel, Bahamut readies to annihilate humanity, but the other astrals protect Oz and block his Terraflare. Drained of her darkness, Lunafria falls and Noctis catches her. On the otherworldly Silblossom field where the dying Lunafria previously passed the Ring of the Lucii on to Noctis, the two meet again as children. She had lived only to fulfill her calling as Oracle, but after meeting Sol, had realized she wants more out of life. They transform into adults, and though Lunafria thinks this may be the last time they are together, she declares her wish to live with him. As she begins to sink into the abyss, Noctis calls out to her to stay with him. This time she can hear him, and feels something touch her hand as everything fades. Noctis awakens with Lunafria in his arms. Noctis entrusts the still-alive Lunafria to his retinue and warps off to fight Bahamut while Arden sits on the throne and summons the Kings of Yore, the mystic dealing the killing blow. Even if Bahamut consumed the darkness to power his Terraflare, the sun doesn't rise. Either Terraflare was incomplete, or the darkness is simply too vast. Bahamut scolds Noctis for opposing a supreme god as a weak human, but Noctis thinks that even if Bahamut created the Ring of the Lucii, its power derives from the generations of kings. The other astrals help Noctis defeat Bahamut while Arden and the Lucii destroy Bahamut in the beyond, even if this will destroy all gods as well as the crystal. The darkness begins to wane, Noctis strikes Bahamut down, and the citadel begins to fall from the sky. Titan catches it and the crystal sucks in the remaining darkness before shattering. As her final act, Shiva heals Lunafria so she can live a happy life with Noctis. Noctis and Lunafria embrace, and Lunafria says a final tearful goodbye to Gentiana as the sun rises. Noctis and Lunafria marry while being watched over by the spirits of their loved ones. The world is slowly rebuilt, Alticia and Tenebrae are restored, Lestalem remains a central community, and the thawing of Shiva's ice allows the Niflheim continent become fertile once more. Please subscribe and give thumbs up. Thank you.